Welcome to the Mischief. I'm Vallen, and this is Witchery Brews, level 6. Today we're going to be covering the first half of these interesting and dangerous brews. Stick around or press the option that you like. First up, we have Undead's Curse. This one here is made with a bit of raw salmon. It's a little strange there, but it essentially will make you vulnerable to sun. But it's a bit weird how it works. Now, the more power you have, the more damage over time that you will take. But it's not your typical damage. It is more along the lines of, it isn't fire per se, with like you would see a vampire catch on fire, unless you're an NPC, in which case, let's see if I can actually hit the guy properly. There we go. He took me a second there. These guys' hitboxes are terrible for trying to get a potion effect on them, but you can see he's taking what looks like fire damage. And as far as NPCs are concerned, that's pretty much what's going to happen. They take fire damage. Now, as far as players go, whether you are in creative or not is how I found out that this isn't really fire damage, because if you see here, I'm going to switch my game mode. There we go. I'm now in survival. As you can see, my hearts and my hunger pops. If I toss this in the air, I will get the effect for, about a minute and a half. There we go. Oh no, half a minute. And you see, I start taking a little bit of damage because I'm in the sunshine. It's not that much really at this low level, but you'll see I'm not on fire. There's no fire effects going on here. I am currently just taking some damage. Now the thing is, let me change my game mode again. I am now in creative, and you can see that I am in the sun. And I'm still taking damage, which leads me to believe that this is actually void damage that you're taking, or some might classify it as divine. So take it as you will. It's not necessarily fire damage to players, but for players it might be a little bit more lethal than usual. Now, of course, this spell has since expired, so therefore I can head back, and it's significantly more damage that you would take from this if you were to power it up more so. And you could turn it into a gas brew if you so desire, to just constantly keep renewing it. It's not very long though. As you saw, it only lasted about 30 seconds, and that's on a direct hit from a potion. So you'll be lucky to get somebody to actually drink this. But there you go, Undead's Curse. And here we have Illfitting. This one here actually takes wild brambles, which are a rather unique item. But actually, the wild bramble should be noted that it's rather expensive for this. Allow me to bring it up here. 8,000 altar power. So you're going to have a big enough altar in order to do this. But Illfitting basically will kick people's armor off. So allow me to grab one of these brews here. We'll grab a low level and a high level. And these don't last very long at all. If you notice there, it says like 3 seconds for these things. Now, I am currently in creative, but it should still affect me just the same. So let's see here. I wanted to make sure I got the which brew am I getting here? We want to do the low level one first. So with this, I toss it in the air, hit myself, and there's a chance that my armor might slip off. And there you go. One piece of my armor came off. Now, if I switch to this other brew, then I should be able to do the same, and in the same 3 seconds you'll see that there's a better chance for more things to fall off. So the more power, the likelier it is that the armor is going to slip off of the target. Now this should work on zombies and the like for any armor items that will be removed, or clothing, and it works really well on any kind of targets you may aim for. So if you know of anybody that has some armor that you're finding very difficult to get through, this would be a good way of doing it. Then perhaps using a pull potion or something like that just to get it away from them. Yeah. And of course, I do recommend that you make sure to get a good splash radius in this, so you want to do that just so that you can hit your target. And the more power, like I said, you're definitely going to get more pieces of armor popping off of your target. So in a gas brew, you're probably very likely to get them to drop their stuff, and if they're still trying to put their armor on while in the gas cloud, then, well, it's just going to fall right back off again. Reincarnate. This one here is even more unique than the Illfitting one. It uses Hint of Rebirth as its main ingredient, which surprisingly is not as expensive as the Wild Bramble. It's only 2,500 in your altar. But with this in mind, the more power will allow more dangerous foes to spawn. Allow me to grab some of these brews, and I will be right back. Here we go. Now I have my brews. I've got a low level one and a high level one. Of course, the area of effect isn't really going to make much of a difference in this case, but if I find some volunteers here to test this out, we've got the low level one here. This will last on them for about a minute and a half, I believe. Let's see here. Yep, about a minute and a half. And if your target dies during that time, they will turn into a different type of creature, like in that case, a spider. So this is a very low level one, so that's most likely what it is. It's all dependent on the creature that you're hitting as well. So let's kill one of the sheep. Turns into another spider. Let's see if we can find a little something different. Here we go. There's a horse. Now, if I used this on the spider that was created by the reincarnating sheep, then it would turn into another spider. For instance, there we go. Let's just stab this guy with this. There you go. And there is something else. You can actually use the high level one, and it will turn it into a bit more dangerous of a foe than a spider. In this case, a creeper. Or, if it's already a rather dangerous creature, it would change it even further into a blaze, which then, of course, has fiery attacks. So, depending on the creature that you're targeting, it may upgrade all the way to a blaze, which I'm finding to be the highest level danger creature there is. And in a gas brew, this can be rather effective in an area. Basically, every time you kill an enemy, it then reincarnates into another one, and then into another one, and into another one. So if you have a blaze, you could feasibly just constantly keep killing him over and over and over again to yield the benefits. Now you might be wondering, how does this work for a player? It actually does and doesn't. I did try using it on myself, and upon jumping down from a high enough height, I actually I had a weird, strange brew effect, sort of like one of the infusions, where I would remove a piece of dirt and survive the fall. I would actually regenerate 1 heart. But that was only when I fell from a height. Now, if I were killed by a creature or something, I would die, but then I also would spawn a creature according to the level of brew that I had. For instance, if I was under effect of a lighter brew, I would spawn something like a spider. If I was under the heavy one, then it would be the blaze was spawned upon my death, which can make things a little more challenging upon reclaiming your corpse. Now here we get into a really interesting brew that can be used in combination with just about any of the other brews to great effect or your detriment. This is Duration Boost. This one here, the more power, the better off you're going to be. I recommend you use a lot of power in this every single chance you get, because queasy is not a pleasant thing. The area of effect is just where it splashes. You know, it doesn't really change anything. So I recommend a drinking brew. You could use a gas brew if you really want, but a drinking one's just going to be better. And so I'm going to grab one of these here. Now, if I use this in combination with other brews, like let's see, attract arrows or reflect arrows. Actually, that sounds good. Let's take a splash brew of reflect arrows, and this doesn't last very long. This is 45 seconds here. So let's throw it at myself. You can see it's on me. I have a little bit of a speed buff from the stuff I'm standing on. Now, if I drink this potion, it doubles it. And then I get a queasy effect for a few minutes. So what that means is that I cannot use this potion again, or this brew again, during that queasy time. And there is nothing that I can do that will remove that queasy early. You would think that, well, it wasn't there like that stout belly thing. No, that doesn't really work with this. I tried that. I tried using the different milks and things of that nature. There's nothing that I've been able to find that's been able to remove the queasy. Now, if you only have a very low level version of Duration Boost, that will actually make your queasy about like 12 or 15 minutes or something. So it can be really crazy. But if you drink this or splash it on the ground after you have taken a rather expensive brew, it can basically double the length of it. Really good. So if you have something like, let's say you decide to go with Vallen's Brew of Combat over here, which is like a Strength 3 for 9 minutes, Reflect Projectiles for 4.5, and Poison Weapons for 4.5. You could double all those times with this one simple brew. So therefore, it can be really, really good, though it will be, of course, a second brew. You could try combining this with some brews, but I did find it had some incompatibilities, and it's best just drank after the fact. You could drop it down on an offensive brew as well. If you have something causing like freeze and poison and wither on an enemy, and then you toss down one of these splash potions on top of that, you would double all those effects on your targets, which would make for a very rude and horrible day for them. And here we get into Vallen's Brew of Strategic Surprise. This one here might take a little bit of setup, but it can be used on its own. I'm going to grab one here, and this is basically going to be Vines and Rebirth. We're talking about reincarnating things into, blazes. And the idea is that the vines, or vine-wrapped effect, means that anybody affected by that also becomes, more susceptible to fire. And therefore all you need is a bunch of blazes. So, how would you get somebody to try and kill a bunch of smaller creatures? I've tried combining this with Poison Toad. It does not work. But there's other creatures in the world that are rather annoying that people will not want to live. Thus being mandrakes. You could use these as a trap. Now this, of course, is very obvious. I have set this up for demonstration. There are ways that you can automate this. For instance, all I did was hook this up with a slight delay with Splash Brew of Harvest. You don't even have to use that. And the Vallen's Brew of Strategic Surprise. You could do this by hand if you want, but I'm using it as an automated setup. So we put that back down there. Now the Brew of Harvest, of course, is going to make all these mandrakes start jumping out of the ground. Now you could just put a bunch of pistons underneath them and have them pushed up, and that would automatically harvest them as well. So you don't have to have that secondary brew. I'm just using it because I already made one, and they're really convenient. And that should harvest a whole bunch of these in an area. Now, Strategic Surprise is going to be in an area of gas effect as well. So anything in this area is going to be under the effects of Vines and Reincarnation. Therefore, all these guys, when they die, will start generating a whole lot of blazes. Now, let's give it a test, see if it works. Now, just now I did try this, and I had a problem where the potion came up through the water and landed back down in the water. And a lot of brews, when they splash in water, don't actually function. So I did not. Therefore, I put a lily pad there in hopes that this will actually work a little better. Now, let's see if it works, shall we? And there we go. Lots of hate. And the other brew is starting, and they're like, oh, we must kill them all. Well, as you kill them, they create more and more vine-wrapped blazes, which then would kill you because you're vine-wrapped and susceptible to fire. So let's back away from there before things get a little too crazy. And yeah, it lasts for a good minute and a half. I suppose you could always toss out a lengthening brew on top of that, but things could get a bit crazy. And here we have how to make it. One Netherwort, Tear of the Goddess, Diamond Vapor, a diamond, Glowstone, Blaze Rod. Optional, of course, is the attuned stone that is charged. You're going to want some vines, and you're going to want a hint of rebirth. Of course, you're going to want to go in this order, across to the vine wrapped, then down to the next row, and do the reincarnation. Then you're going to want some wood ash, cocoa beans, belladonna, and lapis lazuli. Bottle it up, and you get Vallen's Brew of, Strategic Surprise. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed today's video. I know that I definitely have not because of all the screaming. I'm sorry. It's very painful. You guys are lucky because I'm turning the volume down for you. I'm just kidding. It's not that bad. All right, so I look forward to seeing you guys again in the future. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Spread the mischief to others. And until next time, folks, I'll see ya.